each one is removing the bush that's in the way that the beehives are going to be in. Step 1, call your brother and ask him to remove the tree. Let's see if it works. Oh, okay, and it's out. Just like that. I'm going to drag it across the yard all the way to my compost pile. Oh, the bushes have been cleared out by my brother, and I think I'm going to put the hives right there. I have to look into it a little bit more, because I'm just not sure if they're going to mess around with that, like, part of my house down there. So I'm going to put them, I believe, right there. And then I also have a big water collection tank that my brother and I are going to install later on this summer. I am painting my beehive. I grabbed a outdoor, exterior latex paint. It's a flat matte color. It's honey locust. I honestly ran to the store yesterday and just picked whatever color I thought was appropriate. I picked this one. I knew I wanted a yellow color because of honey and being yellow, and I picked this one. It's honey locust. I thought that was very appropriate. It was meant to be. So I grabbed a little container of that, a little quart, and I'm just painting it today. When I'm painting, I want to make sure I don't paint these areas. So there's the sides of the box that you want to paint here and here, but you do not want to paint this area, because when you remove the boxes, they can get stuck together with that paint and cause problems. And that's not something I want to run into. So keeping it nice and simple today. Okay, so I have both hives out. They both have this one has a smaller version than this one here, but they have this like ramp to walk up so they can go into the hive. They're both identical, the large brood box at the bottom. It's a 10 frame, but I've removed one frame because I'm putting that division board feeder in there that takes up one frame. And I'll actually be removing a second frame so that I can pinch the queen's cage that I'm going to be using today in there for a little bit so that I can get her out of the cage and into the hive to mingle and start laying eggs. I've actually repositioned the hive a little bit because I want morning sun. Bees kind of flutter their wings and get going in the morning, so it's best to have a little bit of morning light. And over here was a little bit too shady, as you can see. So instead of having it be like an hour or two from now, which would be like 11:30, 12 o'clock, which would be almost noon, I think I'm going to position them over here for right now, which is a little bit different. I'm still even deciding whether or not because they fly out of the hive at a 45-degree angle. I don't know if I want them to face an apple orchard that's a little ways away from us, or if I want them to face an area that I'm going to be growing my garden, which they fly upwards of 2 miles away. So I'm probably overthinking it, but I'm just thinking to myself, I kind of want my bees to be positioned in the direction of my garden, but TBD. I'm still doing some soul searching. So these right now are empty. In a couple of weeks, hopefully they'll get drawn out with the comb. So I have to make sure I feed my bees right now. Since there's no flowers out, there's no nectar for them to start collecting and all that. So I'm going to use a sugar syrup, like a simple syrup ratio. I think it's 1:1. Maybe it's 2:1. I gotta look it up again. But different feedings of different sugar amounts call for different times of the year. It's actually quite simple. So I'm just gonna let the bees draw out this comb. Now, if this were covered in bees, I'm gonna use my little smoker here. It's working perfectly. So you just simply go like this. You just kind of go it over the whole hive. I would have probably first, when taking the lid off, I would probably have just gone like this a little bit, and it just a couple of puffs does it, and you just simply puff it like this, and then the bees would kind of go a little docile. What the smoke does is kind of interrupt their communication skills, so it makes it so that they don't go kind of nuts. And anytime they start, like, they do something that sounds adorable but evidently isn't. It's called booping. And they boop into your netting, and that's like them dive bombing for your face. I learned in bee class last week that they actually go for your eyes, nose, ears, and mouth because it's something to do with the gases that we give off. They're attracted to that, so they go and they would know that on a predator like a bear, they would go for its eyes, nose, and mouth. So I learned that was very fascinating in bee school. But then if they started doing that booping thing where they start hitting and pinging off of my netting here, I hit them with a little more smoke to kind of interrupt that because they've gone into like a crazy mode. People have sometimes even said that you can sometimes smell bananas. I guess the bees let off a certain pheromone. The defense bees let off a pheromone that smells something to do with like bananas. So I have actually both styles of feeders here. So they do what they call like a baggy feeder, which is usually done in a gallon size bag, but I'm actually going to do one of each of these. Typically you'd really just use, I would say, more or less one or the other. But to start my hive, it's going to be actually really chilly this weekend. It's going to be in the 30s. So I have to install them today. It's about 60 degrees out. I'm going to pick them up around noontime today. I'm going to put this 1 gallon feeder in each one of the hives. There's 2 here. It has this long kind of piece that the bees would crawl down inside. You fill this part up with the sugar liquid. Usually you'd fill it almost all the way, but with the cold temperatures, it was recommended to me from my beekeeping class that I fill it like a third of the way, because if it freezes, it's going to take the bees a lot of energy to flap their wings and warm up that liquid. So I'm also going to use, just as a fail-safe to make sure that I don't miss it, you know, I don't open the hive correctly one of the days or I miss it. I don't want them to starve out, especially being so brand new and trying to really get going on creating the honeycomb. They need a lot of nutrition. So I'm going to use these bags, and I'm just using a quart size bag. I filled it up with that sugar syrup that I made last night, and I'm just going to put a couple of pinholes at the top or a slit at the top and lay it across the frames in the corner away from the queen, so that I can have an added layer of nutrition so that I don't miss it by accident. I'm going to check on them pretty much every day, but when it gets really, really cold in the 30s, I don't really want to practice opening the hive, because that's going to cause some problems with their heat and body heat regulation. Guys, there they are. Look at them. It's 10,000 and a queen and another 10,000 and a queen right here.